Off-Gassing, a scuba podcast with host Nick Hogel.
I would actually use it tomorrow.
Okay.
It was one of the original. It's definitely an OG inspiration. It's got the fiberglass housing. It's the unit that killed Max Hahn, the German diving physiologist. I actually unboxed it after it being in storage for 10 years when I was in Egypt last year, and I just turned it on. Handsets are all working. Cells are a little bit dead, but it was absolutely fantastic. So I was then teaching more open circuit tech while I was getting my experience on the rebreather, and then 2005 comes around. I'm now teaching on the rebreather.
Real quick, was the rebreather teaching, was it a want or a need?
It was definitely a one.
Okay.
It's something that I feel strongly about rebreathers. I think rebreathers are the only way to go.
Okay.
So as far as my own personal configuration choices are concerned, it's closed circuit rebreather, number one tool. My number two go-to tool is a twin set.
Okay.
My weakest configuration is side mount. And I've been diving side mount here now probably since Mexico, actually. In Mexico at that time, back in like 2001, 2002, it wasn't really.
Oh, really? Okay. It was mostly back mount doubles.
It was mostly back mount doubles.
Okay.
We played around with it. I then kind of started playing around again with side mount in like 2009 in the Red Sea. So from my go-to configurations, my strongest is definitely a rebreather. I would say I'm a deep ocean diver. I'm not really a cave diver due to geographic issues. Bali Ahmed is really good for deep ocean stuff.
Yeah.
We don't actually have any caves. We also have a lack of rust, which is a bit frustrating sometimes. I'd like a little bit more rust, but that's the way it is. We have the options to travel, and that's what we're doing again now, post-COVID. But so anyway, I moved through then on the inspiration, and I got my instructor qualifications on that. I probably assembled about 1,000 hours on the unit, and then decided to migrate to a different unit. And I've migrated to different units to actually also just keep my own level of interest in the sport up and understanding. I'm still teaching on the inspiration when there is demand for it. There isn't really so much of a demand for it in this region. And I think I'm now probably qualified on about 11 rebreathers.
Okay.
And I teach primarily now on 3.
Okay. My question is, what advice would you give as me being a recreational diver thinking about going into rebreather? Like, is there a world for the recreational rebreather?
The recreational rebreather, I mean, you need to actually quantify what you believe is recreational. I believe now that if you're regularly diving in the, let's say, 40-45 meter range, there is no way around a rebreather.
Okay.
If you're doing it kind of regularly, and it again depends a little bit on where you are and what you're kind of doing. Rebreathers, they give you so many options, so much gas efficiency, also from a decompression perspective, they're really great. I'll be honest, through my own rebreather pathway, career, whatever you want to call it, I was always kind of like, no, you can't use rebreathers in a recreational environment. They're a technical tool.
Yeah.
But I probably, in the last couple of years, I've changed my mind about that.
Okay.
I think that they have fantastic advantages if you're sort of like, diving 30 meters and you're doing photography, because you just have time.
Yeah.
You have the time. Do you need to actually have a higher level of awareness and discipline? Yes, you do. Do you need to have vast amount of open circuit technical experience? No, I don't think you do.
Okay. Okay.
I think here is one of the things. You can go out and learn a rebreather as a recreational diver, and you first of all develop the mindset for diving a rebreather in a no decompression environment down to a depth of 30 meters, 100 feet. Once you go out and you've done 50, 100 hours like that, and you really are in tune with what the rebreather facilitates for you and your diving, you can then go, okay, now I can start thinking about conducting stage decompression on a rebreather.
Okay.
And then you bring those kind of facets into it.
Me being in the situation that I'm in, obviously, I took the advanced nitrox decompression procedures class with you, and then it's like, okay, well, what's the next step? It's like, okay, so do I want to do mixed gas diving in an open circuit configuration? One thing that I've learned is a lot of people that will take those courses are like, okay, yeah, I took this course, but then I didn't use it that much after the fact. So it's like, well, why not go towards the rebreather route? Just because of the fact that it's a little bit, I don't want to say cheaper. That's the wrong word to use. But in the matter of it's all cost, right? So it's like
it's definitely more cost efficient on a rebreather, especially here. I mean, somebody who's already now, like yourself, decompression trained, decompression aware, diving in that kind of 45-meter range. Yes, here for where we are. In the kind of environments that we dive in, which is warm water, clear visibility, you can get away with air.
Yeah.
Down to 45 meters. It's not ideal, but it's still tolerable.
Yeah.
It's definitely more tolerable than what we were doing back in the 90s. And more forgiving, especially because we've learned so much more.
Yeah.
If you now have a look at what happens in Europe, especially Northern Europe, or what happens in the States, as soon as you get in that kind of a depth range, 35 meters or deeper, people are opting to go with trimix. And this is why you actually see much, much more use of rebreathers in those regions due to the cost. This is the kind of diving we're involved in. We know that every dive is a decompression dive. We know we're actually going to go into having to conduct stage decompression. We are going to be doing gas switches. And like you say, a lot of people get certified at mixed gas level, and you ask them then, when was the last time you did a mixed gas dive? Last dive of my course. Why don't you dive mixed gas? It's far too expensive.
Yeah.
And this happens all the time. Whereas then, like for yourself, where you're looking at, right, okay, where are we going to move to now? I conduct decompression diving to 45-meter depth range. Okay, do I carry on open circuit into the 60-meter range, or do I now migrate over to the rebreather? This is actually ideal territory for a rebreather. Super ideal territory for a rebreather. And I think also when you then commit to rebreather training, possibly even owning your own rebreather, you end up diving at the top of your game more often than if you were doing open circuit. Because like I say, somebody who's diving, who's been qualified trimix 60 meter, you ask them, when was the last time you did a trimix 60 meter dive? Last time in my course.
Yeah.
Why did you do that? Have you seen the price of gas?
Oh, it's insane now.
It's totally insane. Whereas if you see somebody who's now 45-meter trimix qualified on a rebreather, or 60-meter qualified on a 60-meter trimix qualified on a rebreather, they're out there crushing it every weekend because they go like, well, I've got the rebreather. The gas costs me $20, and why wouldn't I do what I want to do, which is what my passion is? And they really dive to their end game.
So what unit, a good unit for an introductory rebreather diver, like someone that's like, okay, I'm going to go learn how to do a rebreather diver, what would you suggest? I know this is a tough question because
It's not a tough question. It's a question that always pops up. At the end of the day, rebreathers. There is no such thing as a perfect rebreather. You show me a perfect rebreather, I'll show you Moses in the burning bush right now.
Okay.
The other thing that happens also in the industry is everybody gets on their soapbox.
Yes.
Instructors are always telling you about the unit that you need to dive.
The unit they're trying to sell.
That they teach on
Yes.
and they sell to you. I think what actually, for anybody that's looking at getting into rebreathers, ask yourself, what type of diving do you want to do?
Okay.
Where do you see your diving taking you in the short, medium, long term?
Okay.
Are you now looking at spending more time in caves, in shallower water? When I'm saying shallower water is like, down to 30, 40 meters. Are you looking now at eventually looking at wrecks in 100 meters?
Yeah.
Are you looking at doing reef stuff in 120 meters, which there isn't a certification course for, bar one agency, but I'm not going to go into that one. So you need to actually make yourself a roadmap of where you're going and what you want to do. Once you actually have answered the question for yourself, what you are looking at doing short, medium, long term, then you go out and you do your research on the internet about instructors that are doing that type of diving.
Okay.
Like, for example, if you want to know how to use a side mount rebreather in a cave, I'm probably the last person you want to speak to.
Okay.
And I'll tell you that squarely. I'll just say that's not really in my area of expertise.
Yeah.
If you're looking at now doing advanced mixed gas, 100 meters plus range, I can help you with that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the other thing is, do your research about who you actually want to be taught by. And is that person that you are entrusting your education and life?
Oh, and at that point, cost, because
It's not. Cost is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Cost is irrelevant.
Yeah, okay.
You have to pay the piper.
Yeah, that's very true.
You have to pay the piper, and diving is still cheaper than golf, which is unfortunate. Okay,
That is very true.
because golf, you wear stupid, unfashionable clothes and you whack a ball around 18 holes until you have a stroke or a heart attack. Diving at least allows you to go and visit an alien world where you need special life support equipment to stop you from getting dead.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't play golf. I don't like the shorts. So you need to actually ask yourself, what's your end goal?
Yeah.
Short, medium, and long term, and then go out and research who those people are. Another thing that helps with rebreathers is having access to other divers on the same unit where you are.
Okay.
Because you can then pool resources and spares.
Okay.
You also need to make a rebreather your primary diving tool.
Okay.
Okay, there's a lot of people out there that they own a rebreather for the kudos of saying, I'm a rebreather diver.
Yeah.
And all it is a glorified paperweight. Okay? It's like low-cost carriers. It's like low-cost airlines. Rebreathers, they need to be used. They need to go take off, then they need to land, and they need to do that all day long. If you leave them in a room somewhere, they will rot out from under you, and when you want to go diving with it, it will just go like, no.
Yeah.
You've neglected me. No, we're not going to do this now. But I think definitely if you're diving deeper than 30 meters in a post-COVID world, and you're diving that kind of depth range regularly, and you're actually going into accelerated decompression kind of diving, you're not going to get around a rebreather.
Okay.
Because it will actually make you dive more. But you actually have to look at yourself first of all in the mirror and say, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And how do you want to get there? Then don't worry about training agencies. Training agencies are like banks. They're a necessary evil. Okay? And therefore use that to your advantage as well. And look at definitely look at people that are doing the dives that you want to do. If they're doing the type of diving that you want to do, speak to them.
Yeah.
We've just had Rebreather Forum 3 in Malta, 4, Rebreather Forum 4 in Malta, which I didn't manage to make, but that's another story. There's going to be a lot of really great information coming out from that, because it was something that was kind of heavily supported by Dan.
Yeah.
The whole research mission that's going on there. Dan are doing some incredible work. Frauke Tillmans and her team there. They're doing awesome stuff. We've had some connection with their team when we were doing our stuff last year on expedition. Gareth Locke from the Human Factors, the Human Diver, awesome stuff. And the thing that I really wanted to actually catch up on, and I need to reach out to Harry, is diving with hydrogen. Because this could actually alleviate the whole helium cost. Because hydrogen, it's a lot easier and a lot cheaper to get hold of. Yeah, but blending it in your garage with oxygen, that could have, kaboom, catastrophic consequences, where you basically designate yourself a new zip code. But yeah, I should actually reach out to Harry and ask him about that. I will do. Mental note to myself. But he's actually a prime example. I remember having the privilege of doing a rebreather crossover, so unit to unit.
Yeah,
that's the other thing you need to remember about rebreathers. It's very different from open circuit, because open circuit, you learn how to dive open circuit, and then if you use a Scuba Pro or an Apex or an Aqualung or a Ziegel or a Deep Six, it doesn't matter. A regulator is a regulator. It's piston or diaphragm. However, with a rebreather, they all have their own little nuances and quirks. And therefore, if you now migrate, and that's the other thing you need to remember with a rebreather as well, you might actually now say, this is the shit.
Yeah.
This is the best rebreather since Moses invented fire. And you'll go like, yes. And you'll be an evangelist. You'll come out and you go like, my rebreathers, you're smoking.
Yeah. Well, I have to admit that's one of the issues that me as somebody coming into the rebreather world is a lot of people are promoting what they sell. And that's the hard part is
best analogy I have for that one. I don't know if you're so familiar with Skoda cars.
I am not.
Okay, so I'm from the UK. Okay, so the Soviet Union breakdown, end of the 90s. We suddenly, end of the 80s. Mid-90s, we had Skoda cars turn up in the UK.
Okay.
And this was before Volkswagen kind of took them back over under their wing, which is where they originated from. But they were like a cheap car from Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
Or now the Czech Republic. So Skoda. They came in. And rebreathers are a lot like that, actually. You go out and spend 10K of your hard-earned, 10K or more of your hard-earned cash. You are not going to sit at the bar off-gassing with your friends and say, I bought a turd. You're obviously going to tell everybody this is the best thing since the invention of the wheel.
That's the scary thing. That is the scary thing.
Which is also the other thing when you get into rebreathers. If you're thinking about going into rebreathers, speak with different instructors.
Yeah.
Go out and try different units.
Yeah.
It might cost a little bit more in the short term because, you'll go out and you'll do a try day with an instructor X on unit Y. And it'll cost you $250. Well, $250 Sing. So like $180 US. But you'll have a full day where you can then actually come in and go like, okay, what does it feel like? Ask questions. Okay, and this is how the rebreather industry has actually matured, because back in the day, the early 2000s, you would turn up for your class on a rebreather, having no idea if the rebreather actually is something for you.
Yeah.
After buying one new.
Oof.
And this is what actually also happened then quite a lot. You would get people come into the class and they would do two water sessions. They go like, this thing is definitely not for me, but it's like a new car.
Oh, you don't want to deny it. You do not want. You just spent that much money.
Well, it's not that. But after 2 dives, you bought something for 10 grand. You took it out of the showroom. It lost 50% of its value because it's depreciated.
Oof.
But going back to that analogy with Skoda cars, nobody's going to admit that you bought a pile of shit.
People have invested interest. And it's like, okay, well, this is what I'm diving. This is what I have to promote. It might not be the best thing in the world. And that's the scary thing about walking into the rebreather world is like, okay, this is what my instructor pushed on me. And that's, it because of the fact that when you're taking a class, you're like, okay, I'm trusting what the instructor says. So like, what am I going to do? This instructor is pushing this. I enjoy side mount diving. I really enjoy it, but there's, a particular model out there that is like, okay, this is being pushed because of Instagram, because of social media. This is like the big thing. And it's kind of a hard thing because I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sold on it, but I don't know. And that's kind of a tough decision as a consumer, I guess, because like you said, no one's going to shit on what they just spent a shitload of money on.
The problem also with social media is everybody just sees these photos.
Yeah.
And as Gareth Locke actually says, this is the iceberg syndrome.
Yeah.
So you just see the tip.
Yes.
Which is all this kind of like, wow, I want to be that.
The golden pictures.
Yeah, but you don't see below the surface.
Yeah.
You don't see.
They don't show you that.
Not only the background information, but also how much work, how much time, how many failures have been involved, how many near misses.
Unfortunately, social media these days is a big selling point. It sucks to say. It really does suck to say. But you see this unit that like, oh, okay, wow, like all these people are diving it. Like this must be amazing.
But again, it's horses for courses. It's tools for a job. Okay, and I think this is also where the rebreather industry has become really bad as well. Because they see it as manufacturers see it as another way to sell.
Yeah.
And this is why there's so many more side mount units out there. Now we're going through chest mount units. Chest mount units is the new buzz. Everybody's on a chest mount unit. We've had 2 more released in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Go back to Rebreather Forum 3, which was 2013 or 2012 in Orlando. And there was a panel discussion about the future of side mount or bailout rebreathers, because that's the other thing. Now everybody wants to use bailout rebreathers for deep work. We don't take open circuit gas with us. We just take another rebreather in case our primary rebreather fails. And I forget this guy's name. I always forget this guy's name because it's one of those really quite tricky Slovak names. But he's like, the name's on the tip of my tongue and I won't be able to pronounce it. But he's one of these guys that takes dual rebreathers, goes into a cave on a Thursday evening, heads down to 400 meters, 7 kilometers inside, and comes out next Thursday. Absolutely passionate, deep cave. Hobbit. And I'm sure somebody will kind of comment what his name is, but he was on the panel discussion. It was a small panel at Rebreather Forum 3, side mount rebreathers. Yeah, and you had manufacturers going, "Yes, side mount rebreathers or bailout rebreathers." Yeah, it's the way to go. This guy, he then got up and he went like, "This is what I do. This is my dive profiles. This is what I do." There's me and 4 other guys globally that need a side mount bailout rebreather. All of you that are sitting here in front of me at the moment, you don't need one. You don't need one. You will never do that type of diving, let's be honest. Yeah. My slide set just scared you. You will never do the type of diving that I do. You don't need one. my esteemed colleagues here on the panel are going to try and sell you one. I'm telling you, you don't need one. Brutally honest Slovak honesty.
Yeah.
And, a lot of manufacturers are like, dude, you can't say that. Yes, you can.
Yeah, you absolutely can. You need to
look at what you want to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you now go like, hey, yeah, I see myself spending 7 days in a cave, diving to 200 meters while I'm 7 kilometers away from the exit, then yes. Then you're going to need at least a couple of rebreathers.
99% of the people do not need one. Absolutely.
99%? No, there's like 4 people and this crazy Slovak dude. Globally.
Okay.
That need that kind of thing. So these are the things, but do your research. Your worst resource information center is Instagram. Because that's just basically the top of the iceberg, and it just makes it all look so appealing. It basically makes
it really does. It really does.
Knickerbocker glory Sunday. It's like, I don't know.
No, I agree with that, but it's me being the consumer it's a hard one to navigate.
Other thing then to do is also actually do your own personal research, use various tools, and then actually interview your potential instructors.
Yeah.
See what they say. See what they're posting as well.
Yeah.
Which in my case doesn't really help. I don't post. But see what they say. And this was one of the things that I found most refreshing. I had the privilege actually of teaching a course to Dr. Richard Harry.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is going back a few years. And I was none the wiser. I'd never heard of the guy. I was just like, yeah. Okay, I've got to go to Australia and teach.
Yeah.
I've been asked by the manufacturer to go to Australia and teach some Australians. And so we got into email conversations, and the email chain bounced backwards and forwards and goes, right, now, what makes you think you can teach me about rebreathers? I was being interviewed via email, and I was like, this is refreshing.
Okay.
I've never had this. And
I would assume so, yeah.
I'm like, okay, no problem. Fair question, fair point. Blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, you've used that one. Oh, what do you think of that? And what do you think about that? What did you do there? And we had this whole kind of dialogue bouncing backwards and forwards. And the end of it, they're like, yeah, come on down. You can show me how to use this unit, and we'll drink some beer.
Yeah,
which is what we did.
Yeah,
it was my first time to Australia, and I felt really cheated. I'd always seen Australia as, Bondi Beach, barbecue, surfing, warm. Everybody's always doing shrimps on a barbecue somewhere. I arrived in July in Mount Gambier, where the rain was coming in horizontally off the Southern Ocean. I was in a borrowed dry suit, sitting in the back of a Subaru Forester, eating homemade flapjacks, drinking tea, and I hate tea. As an Englishman, it's really weird, but I don't like tea. And I'm just going like, what the hell am I doing here? Diving in a hole in the ground, which wasn't even a cave. It was just like, a collapse. It was like a quarry kind of sinkhole. Yeah, it was, interesting.
Yeah, I would assume so. So, okay. Side mount rebreathers. How do you feel about that in the industry? Like, there is a big push, not a push, I don't want to say that, but there is a big promotion in the certain side mount rebreathers that are out there today. How do you feel about that?
Personal feeling? It's an industry. Industries, they need to stay alive. And the way industries stay alive is by selling things to people. As I already said, side mount is probably my weakest configuration, although I do actually like it and I do appreciate it in a lot of aspects. I know you're a big side mount fan.
I one of the things I even mentioned was like, I'm like, hey, I'm out here in the ocean side mount diving, It's not the most, but I get that. I 100%. But I did love it.
No, it also really actually depends on where you are and what logistics are available to you at that time. So I've just actually come back from the Maldives, had some incredible encounters with tiger sharks. My sack rate is totally shitty due to being primarily a rebreather diver.
Were you just back mount?
No, there was no back mount opportunity there.
In the Maldives?
There was back mount opportunity in the Maldives, single tank back mount, which would basically limit my wife's diving experience to 30 minutes. Which is where I would have got into a lot of trouble. So I went and I opted for the side mount.
Okay.
Super travel friendly, super logistically easy. I'll just whack on two standard cylinders, and that was great. And I thoroughly enjoyed boat diving with negative entries, standing on deck with gear, go 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 go, for 5 days of diving. With incredible tiger shark encounters, incredible everything encounters. I mean, we had whales and we had schooling grey reef sharks, and it was fantastic. If I travel into the extremes and the depths of eastern Indonesia, which is small, quiet, in-house tip, the east of Indonesia has so much to offer. But you're not going to get doubles there. You're not going to get rebreather support there. You need to do, 3 flights domestic.
So when you're speaking east of Indonesia, what parts of Indonesia are you speaking about?
We're talking places like Samolaki. We're talking places like Alor. We're talking about the Kai Islands, which are the most beautiful beaches anywhere in the world. We're talking about Ternate, Morotai, which is actually where MacArthur staged his re-invasion of the Philippines from. There are wrecks there. In all of these locations, you're not going to get rebreather support. You're not going to get doubles. You might find somebody with a compressor that is choking out tasty air, and so you're okay with a little bit of a headache in the 30 to maximum 40 meter range. But what is really, really opening up here is the potential of exploration for the stuff that is below 40 meters.
Really? Okay.
And that, from places like I said, Morotai, Ambon, Banda. We just did a big scientific expedition, which I can't really speak about now at the moment because papers are being processed and data is being processed in the Greater Banda Sea. And what is going on in Triton Bay and Cendrawasih and the whole eastern side for exploration kind of stuff is amazing. Pre-COVID, we did a cave exploration trip in Kendari province.
What part of that part of?
Kendari is actually north of Wakatobi.
Okay.
So it's the same regency. It's it's southeastern Sulawesi, and I was in side mount because it's easy to travel with.
Yeah.
And I was in cave environments there, which are eons old. My friend and partner on the trip, this was Ed Stockdale and Alexis Chapuis. Alexis was the one that actually kind of like did all the grunt work and set it all up under his mantle of unseen expeditions. We were looking there at 2 blue holes. One was middle of nowhere, actually open ocean blue hole.
Okay, wow.
Which we did sampling of. It didn't turn out to be a completely bona fide blue hole because it wasn't anoxic.
What was the depth of those types of dives?
They went to 50 meters and they checked it.
Okay.
They did that on rebreathers. We had a small rebreather issue at the time, and therefore we only actually had 2 of 3 working. And I opted to actually do the better thing because my wife joined us on this expedition, which was amazing. The boys were also just like, wow. She did well because we didn't actually have any phone signal. We didn't have power until 6 o'clock in the evening. We didn't have running water. We didn't have hot water. We did this one lead from the boat crew, and they said, this is somewhere you need to actually have a look at. And it was in this small lagoon of this beautiful little island, and we went in and we just saw this sinkhole going down in, and we went in, and it was side mount, dropped in, open circuit side mount, got down in, found the cave, reeled in, turned around. There was Alexei, who was on a single cylinder back mount, going like, "Hey, listen, guys, it's okay." And I'm going like, "Listen, we know you're French, but this is not where you want to be now. Just go back out that way. We'll escort you." We went back in. We ran out of line off a 400-foot reel. We took some great images, some great ID stuff. Ed, who's got a good contact with Jill Heinrich, says, "Have a look at the videos of this, and this is what we've just found here in this part of Indonesia." And Jill came back with like, "Where have you guys found that?" That is like a biblical find, because that is eons old. That's actually pre-Ice Age cave. It's super rare. And we were like, yeah, okay. And that's what we use side mount for here. And we were just using standard valves, standard cylinders. Great. Open circuit. We brought rebreather logistics with us, which had all of the burdens of domestic travel and a small booster pump, and trying to convince local authorities at airports that absorbent material isn't cocaine.
Traveling is definitely, to these remote places is not the easiest task. So how was that hurdle?
You pay the excess.
Okay.
But domestic travel excess is actually quite affordable.
Okay.
Now, after doing it a couple of times, now actually what I do is ship it ahead of schedule, which is what we did with our last big project in Ambon, and you then just basically ship it 3 months in advance.
Wow. Oh, 3 months. Holy cow. Okay. That's a trustworthy endeavor right there, just to be like able to ship it.
Well, it's then actually going to be there when you need it.
Yeah. No, that's...
If you go 3 weeks in advance, then it's kind of shaky.
That's understandable for sure. So how did that whole project come about? Like, how was the whole...
The Kendali expedition of 2018, that came about by, hey, listen, I've got this hot lead about a couple of blue holes, and there's probably some caves here. Are you interested? And I was like, yeah, I am. Let's do it. Can I bring somebody else to the party, Alexei? Who are you thinking? Ed. Ed? Yeah, okay, let's go. Ed, we're looking at new holes in the ground in southeastern Sulawesi. We've already done Baobao. There's a lot of discussions about Baobao now.
Yeah.
It's big on the map.
There's a big exploration project, I think, going on in that area right now, or coming up.
There's one scheduled for October.
Yes.
Yeah, but we were the ones that did all the numbers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Marc, I really, really, really appreciate you coming on to this podcast today. And
I'd also actually like to bring a big shout out to our sponsor of the evening, which is the Santa Theresa 1796, which is a fine rum from Venezuela. If you find it in your local bottle shop, go for it. It's exquisite.
Offgassing, a scuba podcast.